Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all. Best Macy's Parade Balloon.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcast should have a theme song. Podcast should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
Hal, you want to start with the thing?
Oh, I already did the thing.
Oh, you already did the...
Yeah, I got it out of the way.
Oh.
The topic, yeah.
Okay.
It's already done.
Hal Lublin, you're telling me that you recorded the topic. One of my most delightful moments of any recording of this podcast is hearing you say, best Macy's balloon. And I didn't get to hear it this time.
I'm trying to juice listener counts, and I figured that's the way to get you listening to it, is if I deny you the thing you love the most.
Well, that's not the thing I love the most. The thing I love the most every year is the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, sometimes called the Macy's Day Parade by people who just have shortened it to that, myself included. And the other thing that I love the most is our guest today, Kate Micucci. Hi, Kate.
Hi, guys. It's so good to see you.
Oh, it's so good to see you too.
Thank you for having me. I feel this is very serendipitous. I didn't know we all shared such a love of the Macy's Day Parade.
Did you call it the Macy's Day Parade?
You know, I don't think I've ever realized. I probably switch back and forth and don't notice. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah. The holiday is now known as Macy's Day.
Yeah.
So did you grow up a fan of the parade? When did you get hooked?
Yeah, I mean, for as long as I can remember, and, I lived in New Jersey until I was 8, and my parents told me they took me to the parade when I was 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember, but there is a great story that we were at the parade, and of course this is 1983.
Mm-hmm.
So New York is a different vibe back then. And I'm in my stroller, and this man in a trench coat comes up to me, and my dad has told me the story that he just said, "Oh, look at the pretty little baby." And then he threw open his trench coat and he was naked. And I laughed. And ever since
Not the
then,
reaction you probably wanted.
Ever since then, I have loved the parade. No,
Oh my God.
I don't remember that, but I do think it's a funny story. But then, yeah, I just always grew up watching it on TV.
Wow.
But you guys, where did your love of the parade begin?
I was in New York City in a trench coat, and for me, it's always just sort of been around. Like, it's just always on TV, and I love giant balloons. Like, that's my favorite. Floats are fine. Floats are great. They're creative, but I love watching giant balloons try to navigate the narrow streets of New York.
Oh, and sometimes fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the excitement. It's the possibility of failure. And then the triumph when they make it to the other side without exploding and creating a national incident.
Yeah, if they can get all the way to Herald Square, they've made it. That's where the good cameras are. That's where it's all lit up. That's where they got to wait 45 minutes at the beginning of the parade and just show us Broadway songs until the parade finally gets there.
You can make it anywhere.
That's right.
A few years ago, I was in New York and I was in Herald Square and they were rehearsing. It was a few days before Thanksgiving.
Cool.
And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, it was freezing cold. And I might have been like, I think maybe the only person like trying to get a glimpse of anything at this hour. And this cop was there and I was like, oh, this is so exciting. And I was like, oh, I just love the parade. And this is so cool to get to watch them rehearse. Like, it was just like a dance routine. They were walking through it. And the guy was like, where are you from? And but I just like, I'm so enamored by every little bit of the parade. So,
Oh, yeah.
That cop has seen too much because he's seen the Parade of the Fallen that happens the next day with the balloons that don't make it, which is just people dragging burlap and rubber and canvas down the street while a dirge plays.
Did y'all come across any of these stories about what they used to do with the balloons and the gathering up of them at the end?
no.
Mm-mm.
So it turns out back in between 1929 and 1932, they would release the balloons thinking, hey, they're full of helium. We'll just have these, kaiju floating above Manhattan for a couple of days, and then they'll slowly sink down to the ground. Well, what they did was they put a return label on each of the balloons so people wouldn't steal them that said, bring these balloons back to Macy's and we will give you $100. This was in the Great Depression, the beginning of the Great Depression, and also the beginning of aviation. So what started happening is pilots in these little rickety planes would go and try to spear these balloons to snag them and then take them back to Macy's for the $100 bounty on each of them.
I read an article about a plane crash because of this. You know that story?
Yes. There was one person that did it successfully in 31. He snagged 3 of them and took them back to Macy's and got $300. So the next year, a lot more people tried it. And this woman tried to spear into the Tiger. It snagged her propeller, I guess, and almost took her down until she and her co-pilot were able to pull it back up.
Wow.
Those aerial dogfights with helium balloons after the Macy's parade is one of my favorite images of the early 20th century that I did not know existed.
Yeah, the skies, being a New Yorker, looking up and just seeing random giant balloons and little airplanes trying to catch them. Like, that is really weird. You're right. That's pretty great.
They found a way during the Depression. Hey, put yourself at risk.
Right.
In what's basically unproven technology at this point for a chance at $100. But the whole parade, which was originally called the Christmas Parade, only existed because Macy's had started consolidating and bought an entire block's worth of buildings to make their stores. So this was to celebrate the grand opening in 1924. All roads lead to Macy's. They want people to come in and spend money. But do you know, either of you, where the first Thanksgiving parade took place 4 years earlier, that same concept? Do you know where it was?
On the Mayflower?
That's correct.
4 years earlier on the Mayflower.
4 years earlier on the Mayflower.
Yeah.
A bunch of very sick Europeans
got a lot of help and were not appreciative of it.
Yes. It took place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Oh, I had a
I'll
feeling.
just say it, through Gimbels, which barely exists anymore. I think it's
Gimbels,
like an online retailer.
The villains from Miracle on 34th Street?
Correct.
Yeah. They're the bad guys that Macy begrudgingly shakes hands with.
Yeah. Wonder who was behind that movie.
Ridiculous. Let's talk about these balloons. Okay.
Yeah.
The balloons first came about in 1929 because they wanted to stop using actual animals that were scaring children. It's kind of scary to parade a tiger down the middle of Broadway in New York. So that seemed like a bad idea. 1928 were the first ones. That was 4 animal balloons to replace the zoo animals. The very next year, they got the Katzenjammer Kids, and that was the first comic strip tie-in to the Macy's parade. After that, more comic book characters in the early 30s. In 1931, all animals except for one giant 2-headed person.
Wow.
One of my favorites. By the way, that image on the top there is one of the balloons that was snagged by the first aviator that tried it. So it does look like a giant dragon in the sky.
Yeah.
And then 1933, mostly the same ones with a few new ones. They took the 2-headed guy, turned the 2-headed guy into Gulliver, which seems like a wonderful balloon to me because in this case, in regular life, every year at the Macy's parade, it is humans watching giant balloons. I like to think that for one balloon in 1933, because he was Gulliver, it was his story and we were all the tiny little ant people that he was walking above.
I know you're walking us through.
Yeah, I'm just going to give like a quick overview of the earliest years.
I know you have another 78 years to walk us through, but before that, we should say that our researcher, Kate McManus, gave us a list of 250 balloons, like as exhaustive a list as she could, with pictures where she could. And we have each selected our own top 10 from this. One of my top 10 is here on this picture.
Really? 1933 is one of your top 10?
Yes.
Can I guess which one it might be?
Please?
Is it the crying baby?
No, but that is a really good choice. I look at the crying baby and I regret not adding it to my top 10. the one I see here is Felix the cat.
He's one of my favorites too, actually. Yes, talk about him. I love Felix.
Now, Macy's claims that he was at the first parade, which he was not, that he was the first licensed character they had. This was his first appearance in 1933. He was only there for 2 years. But he's a really important character in early animation who's sort of fallen by the wayside. And I love him and I love seeing him represented here. There's something about this balloon that just feels iconic to me, even though I never saw it live. And I can't. Part of it is probably because I wish more people knew about Felix the cat, unless there's something super problematic in his cartoons, which there probably was from the time they were produced. Yeah. But I love him as a character and I love seeing him represented. It's a good indicator of how big a character he was at the time that he appeared in the parade before Mickey Mouse did.
You know, I had chosen Felix because when I was, I think 3 or 4, we went to Macy's, a different time than the parade for me to just meet Santa. And Felix was like the promotional figure. Like, you know, you could buy Felix the cat stuffed animals and things like that. And I just remember that was when I really learned who Felix was. So I have this like very early memory of going to New York and to Macy's and tying that all in. And so that was why I picked Felix as well.
Yeah.
I love
Not
Felix.
the crying baby.
Not the crying baby.
Well, I have news for both of you. Don't worry. Colicky Baby is on my list. So, so we are starting off strong. 1933, a good year, giving us Felix and Colicky Baby.
Do we want to jump deeper into our list? Because I don't know how I'm sure there are going to be some where we overlap with one another. Or do you want to keep walking through history?
I just want to walk through just the early years.
Okay.
You can see patterns that sort of emerge.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think of them as the Avengers, Captain America and a Thor sort of pop up as these tent poles with other ones swirling around them. I just wanted to talk about this time specifically because most of these are Macy's doing a guy named Tony Sarg is making these balloons for Macy's in the early years up until 1941 when they stop. They have a big rubber drive. They give 650 tons, I think, to the war effort. And then they come back in the 40s, and that's when it really starts the super big commercial version. But these early years, it seems like each year they were just throwing different stuff out there to see what would stick. I love that they took a giant colonial man, and the next year they painted him differently and turned him into a police officer.
Yeah.
But another one that is on my list is 1937's Pinocchio.
Oh, God, that nose.
Wow.
1937's Pinocchio is the most horrifying balloon. I guess we got used to Pinocchio's nose being like a skinny twig of wood and not a monstrous, bulbous, looks like a giant potato. Among other things.
That grows upward in a almost obscene fashion.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think this balloon, if you have not seen this balloon, check out the 1937 Pinocchio balloon.
Is that on your list?
Oh, I figured that our lists would have a bunch of, there's going to be a lot of people that say Snoopy, and I wanted to make sure some of these early guys get some shout outs.
Is that because you watch Pinocchio's show on TLC, My 800-Pound Nose?
Yes.
By the way, if we're going to do that,
brave.
I do want to go back in time to 1928 because one of the ones I have on my list is carnivorous fish, only because there's no reason that is ever a good idea to put in a parade. You're only going to frighten children by showing them a giant fish that is going to devour them whole.
And of all of them, it's the most realistic with razor sharp teeth.
Is it? Those eyes? Have you seen a fish that looks like that?
Look, of these 5 shapes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
Looks a heck of a lot more realistic than that tiger. That tiger looks like someone put grill marks on a giant hot dog and then attached 4 extra hot dogs to it.
Oh, it's so bad. Yeah, these are, so much nightmare fuel, those early years.
Another one of my favorites, I was debating between Pinocchio and this one, is Little Man, Big Man. I love Little Man,
Strong
Big
Man?
Man. Yeah. It's a fun optical illusion that you can only make with a balloon full of air, which is a teeny little man holding up a great big giant man with a mustache.
And both of them have incredible thighs.
They really do.
My goodness, the thighs.
Yeah. Holy cow.
And it looks like the big man is Colicky Baby all grown up.
Hey, he turned out okay.
Yeah.
He did.
Isn't that sweet?
He turned his weakness into strength.
Oh my gosh.
Now, do you want to start dipping into lists?
Yeah, I've been going through some of my
Kind of
lists.
freestyling?
Yeah.
Kate, what is another one on your list you want to throw out there?
Well, okay, so I gotta be honest. I just put the ones on the list that really meant something to me as a kid.
Sure.
So we gotta go up to the 80s for that. But yeah, Felix the Cat was on there. Here's a one that I think is just, I like the White Star Macy balloons because they're just like, they're the parade, to me.
Yep.
Like, I know that's not very exciting, but, they're just those iconic, the parade's going to be happening if you see those stars. But, by the way, have either of you ever gone to watch the balloons get blown up the night before?
No.
You can do that?
It's the coolest. You walk through the sidewalks and they have it all like roped off and everybody's like, bundled up and they blast pop music, and it's just like a party, and it's the coolest thing. And the funniest thing is they just kind of look like they're in crazy positions, like maybe even like a little dirty, because like Spider-Man's just in a position that looks a little not right. And it's just
even inflated. That one does though.
Yeah, but I did it only once, but it was very thrilling, and I highly recommend if you have a chance to be in New York at Thanksgiving, go watch them get blown up.
What a cool idea! Where do they do it? Like in Central Park or somewhere? Because like there's gotta be up where they start, right?
Yeah, right where they start, right off the park near the museum, and it's just like you walk along the block where the museum is. It's so cool.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah. So I recommend it.
Since we mentioned Spider-Man, I do have him on my list. Number one, because of just how ridiculous the positioning of that balloon is. Because Spider-Man swings through, you could put him in the swinging and he would he look like he was reclining, but he would look like he was swinging rather than putting him in his wall crawling pose, which doesn't look like he's crawling on a wall anywhere else. It looks like he's in Showgirls.
And he does literally have a very famous pose that takes place maybe even on that street, on the parade route. Spider-Man himself has been there in movies, slinging down Broadway.
Yep.
Why not have just the giant version of him doing that? But I guess the ropes would have to be going the wrong direction.
Yeah, I guess so. There's a lot of Spider-Man poses, and I think they just picked the one that worked the best for a balloon. And I just think it's so weird that I put him on the list. I don't think he's the best one, but there's something about it. Every time I see it, I shake my head.
Sometimes it's just stuff that you love, like Kate said, like loving those white stars or the striped candy cane that's been in the parade most years since its inception.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the stars later on because they're small enough to manipulate, when they would do the 3 red ones before Santa would come in. And they would kind of have them going up and down a little bit. I always thought that was kind of fun. Like they have the ability to do that you can't get, 90 people to lift Yogi up and bring him back down successfully to music.
Another thing, this is not balloon related, but I just want to say another thing I love about the parade is I always look for the mistakes. I don't know if you guys do this, but it's just, it's a parade. So it's just full of funny things happening. With the musical guests maybe missing their cue to start singing and, they're lip syncing. If you catch one of those, it's like a gold star. I feel like, my brother and I, we usually watch the parade together and then we'd find these moments and then we rewatch it with friends and point out the funny things. But yeah. Oh man, sorry about this.
It's all good. I just think of it as the lawn care parade.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go by your window just once. It keeps going by your window.
If you could see the most amazing leaf blower, I could try to be like, it's orange and black and this year it's filled with gasoline.
A lot of people don't realize this, but it's related directly to the show because that leaf blower is being operated by Spider-Man in a very precarious pose.
I just looked to see if I could find my photos of the balloons being blown up, and I can't. If I can find them later, I'll send them to you because they're very fun and, like I said, they look kind of ridiculous.
I'm going to throw out one from this era that was around, and this is purely joy from my childhood, and that's the Kermit balloon.
That was on my list as well.
Oh, I've always loved the Kermit balloon because it looks just like him.
They nailed it. Also, I always loved the people who got to carry hold the Kermit balloon or dress like Kermit. And that's a very cool thing too.
Yeah. I'm assuming you've got some Muppet fandom in you, Kate.
Oh yeah. I actually, when I first moved out to LA, I interned at the Jim Henson Company because I love Muppets so much. But I thought I was going to see Muppets and I only got to organize Fraggle Rock slides in a basement.
But you've seen more pictures of Boober than anybody ever has.
That's very true. Yeah.
that's a claim to fame. Speaking of characters that bring you joy, I was a huge Garfield fan as a kid. Mm-hmm. So I added Garfield to my list. And I feel like this Garfield, look, I know he's a big cat. When he sits around the house, he really sits around the house. I read all of his books, The Treasuries, 9 Lives, everything.
And who doesn't love lasagna?
Who doesn't love lasagna? And who doesn't hate Mondays? But this feels like a particularly chunky Garfield, which is what I love about it so much. Like, it looks like he just ate. And now he's just sort of being carried like royalty down the streets of New York.
He's having a good old time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He looks like he could be a little stoned.
Oh, for sure.
Garfield always looks like he could be a little stoned. Except that one rare panel where his eyes are all whites instead of the orange line across.
Yeah, that's when he's tripping.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all pupil. It's just giant Garfield pupils.
Yeah.
All right. Who else you guys have on your lists from around this time? While we're sticking with childhood favorites, who else are your sort of indulgent childhood favorite ones?
Well, I had Woody Woodpecker on my list as well, just because he just reminds me of, it just was one of those, I think it was just more nostalgia than anything. I mean, I did watch Woody Woodpecker, but yeah, I just think he looks really happy to be there.
Yes.
Arms in the air.
Did you find yourself ever, because I always loved the Woody Woodpecker float, but I never watched Woody Woodpecker cartoons a lot. And I find that there are floats that I love from things that I don't really know much about. I've always loved the Betty Boop float, but I don't know that I've ever actually seen a Betty Boop cartoon.
Really?
I know I never, not the old 30s ones. I never read or saw Clifford the Big Red Dog, but I loved Clifford the Big Red Dog coming down whatever avenue it was, Broadway or whatever.
By the way, I'm glad you brought up, there's Spider-Man in this. Mark put together a video clip. We'll post it for everyone to see of the balloons over the years. The Spider-Man just came up and my goodness. But I have Clifford on my list because, so there were a few different criteria. One is like, how hilarious is it? Carnivorous fish qualified for that. Then what pulls at my heart? Garfield pulls at my heart. And this one, Clifford the Big Red Dog, I think for which characters is the balloon like the best actualization in real life of that character? And he's a big red dog and now he's a big red dog balloon. So it feels like it's to proper scale.
Yeah.
For him. And that's why I added him to my list. And he's cute.
That is a really good point. He's at life size. It's to scale for Clifford. Yeah. In some ways, that makes him maybe the perfect balloon.
It kind of is.
Well, I have another one that I think may fit that category, but also among these pictures, I have Ronald McDonald because he's appeared in so many different versions.
That's why I had him on my list too.
I have Ronald McDonald on my list.
It's just like I actually maybe have only eaten at McDonald's a few times in my life. I don't even, but he is part of the parade,
Oh, yeah.
And this version looks like he is about to break his neck because he slipped and fell on a milkshake.
Yeah. It looks like giant Ronald McDonald has fallen off of one of the skyscrapers and the balloons he is holding have not helped slow his fall.
Yeah. It really is bad. I think this is the version that's my favorite though, because like it's so like, why would you could have him in the same position as Woody Woodpecker and no one would bat an eye. But this one is like, he's going to sue somebody if he survives whatever's happening to him in this balloon.
Yeah. I think like the sound effect that he's making is just like, oh.
Yeah.
That's the song he's singing on the parade route and lip syncing poorly in that one chance you hit.
That's the chorus.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just quickly, what are your favorite parts of, because I love the floats, but for me, my favorite part of the Macy's parade is that 45 minutes before the parade gets to Herald Square when you're listening to show tunes.
That's it for me too.
Is it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
That's how I learned all the Broadway stuff every year, what was going to be happening.
I remember being a teenager and seeing Rent, and I was like, these people look so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Pretty cool thing to do.
And I like to, often the fake microphone, because they're lip syncing. So there's just like, I really get a joy from watching anybody pretending that they're not lip syncing, like just holding a mic, but you don't need to be holding a mic. It's the best.
Yeah. If they drop the mic, we will hear their voice exactly the same amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. You will not hear the sound of a mic hitting the ground.
I also love, is it called America Sings? Is that with the
Yes.
hands? I don't know. That when it would be like a bunch of people in colorful sweatshirts and gloves, and that always was exciting to me.
I like when they get all of the cheerleaders in the world and they teach them a routine, but there's like 900 of them out there in that block. And then they all just scream and run off, and then another parade float comes.
I also just love, the traditional scissors cutting the ribbon. Let's have a parade.
Yeah.
I say it with them every year. It's so much fun. There's so many good moments, but that to me is like, I cry a lot when I watch the parade, by the way.
I do too. Yeah.
Sure. It's beautiful.
I get it. A good Broadway production will make me cry, and Santa's entrance.
And also watching high school marching bands, because they have worked so hard to get there. They have sold so many candy bars. They made it. They're in New York.
Yeah.
They're about to, I love it.
And the one that they always get to stand there and wave. There's always one. They always seem to have one person that they pull aside that stands there and waves, and they're like, hey, they're getting a scholarship, or even on the route.
Yeah.
They'll have the person that kind of catches the camera's eye, and it's delightful.
It warms your heart to see people experience what is at that point the greatest moment of their lives. So these kids who are finally getting to fulfill a dream, like that's exciting to watch. How can that not warm your heart and make you feel good?
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to do a quick aside.
Yeah.
Because clearly we're all huge fans of this parade, and there are other things besides just the balloons that we love. But let's talk about the balloons.
Okay.
What else is on y'all's lists?
Well, here's a little more obscure one. I think it was only in 2008, the Keith Haring balloon. I'm just a huge Keith Haring fan, and I didn't even realize actually until I was looking at the list. So I don't know if that's even fair of me to say, but I just thought, oh, that's so cool that they had a Keith Haring balloon, but then they didn't use it again. So I don't know what
They
happened.
only used it that one year?
I think so. I did a little research on it, but I don't know. Maybe my research isn't correct.
There are a lot of them that aren't there for that long. They just appear because it's either in promotion of something or whatever is super popular at the time. SpongeBob's been there repeatedly. It's kind of a measure. The parades become a reflection of what's popular with children at that moment.
But I also like that they do put artists doing interesting stuff up there in addition to, stuff for kids. Like I always love that Yayoi Kusama, the big red sun with the white polka dots.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So
cool.
Those art pieces that they kind of just like, hey, here's just a little bit of an art thing that has we're not trying to sell toys or a cartoon or anything. They did it in, I think, 69 with the ball, the yellow smiley face ball.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of iconic pop art going in. I kind of love that too.
Yeah. We're looking right now at the year 2000. That's what's up on our screens. And one of my top 10 is on here. Sort of similar to the same reason why Clifford the Big Red Dog is on there.
Can I guess which one?
Yes.
Is it the honeybee?
It's not the honeybee, but I do love the honeybee, and I love Honey Nut Cheerios. my choice was Barney the Purple Dinosaur because he's a dinosaur. He should be huge. I wanted to be kaiju size. And him waving in a friendly manner does not mean he isn't also mistakenly stepping on people as he moves around through New York. He's just too big. And that's why I chose him for that reason and that reason alone. I was too old for, I remember Barney being popular, but that was a different era. I was already at least a teenager. I mean, at this point, I was 23 years old in 2000. So just the idea of him being a full dinosaur sized creature.
Hal, what percentage of your list is curated because they are the correct size to be a kaiju walking down the streets of New York?
I swear this is it. But I wish I'd applied that to more.
Well, there are so many dragons and sea serpents through the early years of doing it that, all of those could be actual size.
Mm-hmm.
One that's on my list that could maybe apply is a Kool-Aid man.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's busting through fences and walking down the parade.
He does feel like in a modern, if you were to make, you could have even done it in the original Ghostbusters. Instead of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man to have the Kool-Aid pitcher terrorizing New York would make as much sense. So seeing there's something that familiar about a giant Kool-Aid pitcher.
Yeah.
Kool-Aid, rather.
And I really love Kool-Aid. I love it. I haven't had it in a while, but man, it's good.
It's great. It's like pure sugar. It's so good.
Oh,
and you think it's quenching your thirst, but it never is.
The visual of making Kool-Aid and how much white sugar you're pouring in that pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much sugar.
And the sound of a spoon hitting the sides of whatever the container is as you mix it is music.
And the sound of grains going away. Just that like this is getting less and less grainy as I go.
The shared experience.
Yeah.
I guess it was rare that I kind of was trying to think of, was there a moment when I was drinking Kool-Aid and watching the Macy's parade? And I thought, no, probably not, because drinking Kool-Aid in November seems like summertime. One of the best childhood things of summer and the best childhood things of winter colliding. But now it's all I want in the world is Kool-Aid in a Macy's parade.
Another thing I like about the parade that is kind of unrelated to the balloons is just watching, the NBC newscasters and how did they decorate their desk? And are there these nice fall leaves and perhaps a pumpkin and and they're perfectly winter. I like that part of the design. What's their station look like?
And it's always so elaborate with leaves.
Yes. My brother and I would always, on Thanksgiving, it was me and my brother and my two cousins, we would play parade when we ate Thanksgiving dinner and we would each get assigned a newscaster and then we would pretend that it was happening out the window.
Oh, that's so perfect.
I love
I
that.
like the bit that Al Roker's been doing lately with the butter guy. You guys
Oh yeah.
like?
I mean,
what
that butter
is this?
guy is stoked. Like he's like, I can't believe
Yeah.
I got to come back. Yeah.
Al Roker loves this butter bit that we did one year. And
Yep.
every year Al Roker's like, hey, bring that butter guy back so I can do that butter bit again. It is bonkers and wonderful.
I just really love Al Roker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can tell he loves this the most of
Yeah.
any of them.
He's having a great time.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was always Katie Couric because we have a similar name. So yeah.
There you go.
At the Thanksgiving dinner table, I got to be that.
You always wore earmuffs that were hiding your ear
Yeah.
underneath.
Exactly.
I only have 3 left on my list. I feel like I've been burning through them.
Do it.
Okay. One is Underdog.
Yeah.
For no other reason that it's just a cool balloon. It looks exactly like Underdog.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to go with the superhero, my superhero of choice would be Super Grover because
Oh, that's nice.
I love Super Grover.
so much. And I love Super Grover every time. I wanted him to land properly every time and he never did. And it makes me, I feel like I saw a picture of Super Grover recently and wept. That may be unrelated to Grover and more just things I'm going through, but
Sure.
I love that balloon. It looks great. And it's a character that we've all grown up with Grover. And it's great to see him there in the place of an Elmo or a Big Bird, who are also prominent fixtures on the Macy scene.
Well, I'll also add that I really love the Sesame Street float, and that's one I always look forward to every year.
Oh, yeah.
I know a few of the, I'm not to brag, but I know a few of the puppeteers, and I always text my friend Stephanie, who's a puppeteer on that float, and I always say, stay warm, because in my mind, I can't believe I know somebody that's on that float.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I really get excited about it.
That's so amazing.
But like, why not have, of course, puppets and Muppets specifically suit themselves so well to a parade float.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah.
popping out of little doors and singing a song every year. Oh, it's so good.
I love it.
What else is on your list, Kate?
I think I only have 3 left as well. So here we go. Well, Bart Simpson, mainly because I was really excited when The Simpsons began. Bart and I were the same age. And so I really
cool.
thought, oh, that's cool, but he's still that age. I guess. But and I also was really into skateboarding and he's on a skateboard. I think he's just cool. And then, what are the other ones I met? Pillsbury Doughboy. Did we talk about the Pillsbury Doughboy?
We haven't.
No, we
Hot and
haven't.
fresh.
Yeah. He just, I think because of his, he looks like a balloon already. So I think he really, he makes a great balloon,
He also looks like he's flying, like of all of them, because he's got his arms up.
Always.
So if the Pillsbury Doughboy is angled correctly, it looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy is flying over Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
I love that one. Yeah.
And then my last one on the list is Snoopy and the football.
Mm-hmm.
I love Snoopy. I mean, here we are looking at another Snoopy. I think Snoopy has made his way through the parade in different fashions, but I like the football one.
Yep.
Feels
I
very
have-
Thanksgiving-y.
Yeah.
Snoopy was the only one I had left on my list too.
Oh, you
Any
did?
version. Give me any Snoopy.
Yeah.
Any Snoopy you want.
I was looking at Snoopy as an any Snoopy. I consider the Snoopy, it's almost not a balloon. It is a concept of balloon and it always is changing. And it's like, there will always be Snoopy here.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of years where they take him away and then they bring him back with a whole new overlay or something. But yeah, I think he's so iconic in the history of the parade and for so much of it.
Yeah.
When was Aviator Snoopy? Was 1969, I think, was when it,
Mhm.
or 68. And then they did an astronaut version and then they did Aviator again. And then they've just had various versions throughout. I love that Snoopy.
And the
is-
astronaut just came back, I think either last year or the year before.
Oh,
Because of
yeah.
the
Yeah.
Apple TV Plus series. And
Right.
And he was the NASA safety mascot back in 69 or even earlier than that. He's been entrenched in space exploration for as long as it's been around.
I feel like Snoopy may have gone to the moon more than anybody else.
Probably.
He has
Astronauts always
there.
would do they take a stuffed Snoopy with them?
Probably.
It seems
Probably.
like a thing that if you go to the moon, you take cause you do the tests of,
Yeah.
zero gravity. I think the stuffed Snoopy is the correct thing to bring.
Yeah. Always.
Oh my gosh. I love me some Snoopy.
How about you, Mark? What other ones
Yeah.
have you not told us about?
Well, I've gotten a bunch that y'all have mentioned. The ones specific to me that nobody else mentioned, I think, were because of just my love for Disney. I've always loved that there has frequently been from the earliest days, not always, but frequently a great Mickey. There's
Mhm.
always
Yeah.
a really good Mickey Mouse, whether he is, just Mickey himself or if he's like Sailor or a pilot or whatever version of Mickey they're doing.
Mhm.
I always love. To go along with Snoopy, I love that Charlie Brown got his shot in there. the one where Charlie Brown is running toward the football. I love that.
Yep.
The Yayoi Kusama I mentioned before, Colicky Baby. And I have one left, and he is from a really cool, weird era of the Macy's Day Parade. And that's the mid 1940s, 1945 to 1948. They basically put together a rep company. And all of these balloons tended to turn into other balloons. So a teddy bear was turned into a panda bear and back.
Oh.
An ice cream cone was flipped over and turned into a gnome who was in the parade for 20 years. A pilgrim was turned into a pirate. But I think nobody embodies this better than Harold. Harold is, if you think of Macy's, classic Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Harold is the parade balloon that was there starting in the 1940s and has since become sort of an iconic image of the parade. I think first he was a hobo. Then that was 1945. He was a hobo. The next year he got himself a lucky break. 1946, he was a baseball player. Then I guess that was unfulfilling for him. So by 1947, he had joined the police force. And then ultimately in 1948, maybe he thought that the police force wasn't for him and he could do more good as a fireman, at which point he became the iconic fireman that was only there for 1 year, but has been brought back multiple times since. In 2001, the star on his hat was replaced with the FDNY badge after 9/11. And so I think that the last one on my list is Harold because he is the workhorse of Macy's Thanksgiving Day balloons.
Well, these are great. So we have a lot of balloons in common. We have some outliers as well. I think there are some front runners of this group, but why don't we take a break real quick? And then when we come back, we will determine once and for all the greatest Macy's Day Parade balloon. We'll be right back. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Doesn't matter who you are or what you have, life can be stressful. And I'm someone who has a job, who's married. It's going fine, but I still suffer from stress. I suffer from depression, anxiety. We all do. And even if you're not feeling down and out and depressed or like you're at a total loss, if your stress is high, you could probably use the chance to unload. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. And it can be more affordable than in-person therapy. See if it's for you. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and We Got This listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/WeGotThis. Have your first session in under 48 hours at BetterHelp.com/WeGotThis.
Hi, it's Jesse Thorne, the founder of Maximum Fun. It's the Thanksgiving season, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you, the members of Maximum Fun. This Max Fun Drive, your generosity and your love of pins helped us raise over $90,000 to help bridge the digital divide. Families without internet access struggle to do things that the rest of us might take for granted, especially during COVID. Going to school, applying for jobs, finding medical care. Your donations help the nonprofit Everyone On. They provide equipment, services, and training to get people online so they can access opportunity. You can find out more about the great work Everyone On does at everyoneon.org. Thanks for supporting Maximum Fun. Thanks for supporting Everyone On. And thanks for being awesome people who want to do good in the world.
And we're back. And we're here. We've got 30, well, not 30, fewer because there's so much crossover. I think there are a few here that kind of stand out as finalists. I have the idea in my head of which one I think is the best, but I'm curious, do either of you at this point, do you have one in your head that if I said, all right, right now, best balloon, you'd be able to answer? Or is it a really difficult decision? Are you down to like one or two or three or even more?
It's a tough one.
And also, the question becomes, what are we looking for here? Is it the most iconic? Is it the one that's been around the most? Is it some combination of pop culture and accuracy? Or is it just the history of someone like, is it Harold?
Harold, yeah.
Yeah. Who's continued to survive in different forms, but is only known as, it's just is part of the parade and is from the parade only.
You know, when I think about it, if somebody were to say, what's your favorite balloon? Just like somebody came up to me on the street, I think my favorite balloon is one that was on one of your lists, but not on my list. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
But should I just say who I'm thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Spider-Man. When I think of the Thanksgiving Day Parade, I really think of Spider-Man.
It is an enormous balloon too.
Yeah.
And
it's
is
so
great.
awkward.
Yeah.
And they refuse to change it. They're like, no, he's presenting, and this is how we're going to bring him to New York. That's it. Like, ready for his exam. That's...
Oh my God. I do. Look, I love the Spider-Man float. I got to see it live.
What do you have in your head? Do you have one that you think is the winner?
For me, I think it comes down to what are our criteria that we're looking at, that as we always do, like what makes it the best. I think all of those things that you mentioned, I think longevity, I think association with the parade. I think there's sort of that, intangible, oh, it's this one. Oh, thank God. If I was not in the room when this balloon came through, I'd be mad. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that for me, there are two of those, and they are Snoopy and Harold. I know Harold is a weird outlier one for me, but personally, I love that one. But I think if we're looking objectively, I think the mountain is Snoopy's to get pushed off of right now. What do you guys think?
I would agree that Snoopy is like a constant, and you can't really go wrong with Snoopy. So I would agree with that. What do you think, Hal?
I feel that way too. I feel like no matter what outfit you put him in, it's a home run every time.
Yeah.
Whether it's football, whether you put him in the Santa hat and like dress him up for the winter, or if you put him back in his astronaut costume, just like, I don't know. There's something about Snoopy that is real cool. Like, you want your dog to be Snoopy in some way, right? Like, if you have a dog, you want it to be Snoopy. You want to have a closeness. You want a better relationship than you have with Charlie Brown, because that was not a healthy relationship.
And you also want him to be an astronaut or
You want him to be an astronaut.
an aviator.
He kind of represents so many different things, from just limitless imagination to the space program to life insurance. And it does feel like if his balloon's not there, it feels like something is missing. You don't feel that way with any other balloon. They can all sort of come and go, but Snoopy is the constant.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, are we all safe to say that Snoopy's the winner?
It seems Snoopy seems like the correct choice. It felt like it going in, and we talked about a lot of great ones, but I think Snoopy has held his own in this particular battle. Hal?
Finding a Snoopy. There he is. Oh, look, he's ice skating. He's ice skating. People of the world's favorite beagle. There's nothing that he can't do, including dominate the Macy's Day Parade just by being there. Everybody wants to know what he's going to be wearing. What's his outfit going to be this year? And he has become synonymous with the parade. And it's just always great to see him. He warms your heart because you remember him from childhood. You appreciate the themes of depression and anxiety when you're an adult. That's brought up by Peanuts. So he's a balloon for all ages and all people. That's what makes him the best Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade balloon. I was trying to add more words in there, but that was enough of them.
I feel like this is such a heartwarming moment. Like, we really did it, guys. We discovered the best balloon together as a team.
Yeah.
That isn't, and isn't that what the holidays are all about?
Yeah.
People coming together and really hashing out something like this.
Snoopy and sweet potato pie.
Oh,
Wow, we did it. This is so great. It was, you know what I loved about this is that there was no, we'll have episodes, and it's always great when people have strong feelings. We encourage it 100%. We don't have to agree. We're always going to come to a common ground. But this was just a celebration of something that we all love. And that feels really good, especially for the Thanksgiving holiday.
I feel like this could be a really fun club. Like, we need to find more people that are this passionate about the parade. And maybe we could just say it. Like, if you are, then tweet us and let's start a club.
Yeah.
And we will all be together on Thanksgiving morning, and we know exactly where everyone will be watching live.
And we can be chatting about all the fun things.
Yes.
I love it.
Let's do it, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm in. Well, this topic is closed, but there are many more topics to discuss. So please reach out to us on Twitter, or
you can email us at wegotThisPodcast@gmail.com, or hang out on our Facebook group with us. Let's talk about all the balloons that we love and our favorite parade moments. That's Facebook.com/groups/WeGotThisPodcast. Kate Micucci, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was just truly pure fun, and I can't thank you enough.
Oh, it was a blast. Where do you want people to go? Where should they be following? You're always doing so much amazing stuff. You are so talented and hilarious, and everybody should be Where
Thank
can
you.
they stay up to date?
You can just follow me on Instagram. It's just my name, Kate Micucci, Katemicucci, or same for Twitter. That's about it.
All right. Well, thank you to producer Ken Plume, researcher Kate McManus, graphic designer Uri Kelman, and QA engineer Jen Alba.
And thanks, of course, to our musicians, Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman, for our score and theme song, respectively. And thanks to you, the people of the world, for giving us an opportunity to sit down with one of our favorite, most delightful people and talk about one of our favorite, most delightful things, the Macy's Day Parade. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
And for Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin. Don't worry, everybody.
We got this.
We got this.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.